Hello everyone to sadly the final week of Sonic Month, but don't worry too much about it as I have some plans for next year as well. I had a great time with Sonic Rivals, though there is still a lot more I wish out of this game, as I was under the mistaken assumption for some reason that the card portion was the main event of the game, when in fact this is more of a twist on the classic games, making what was an extra portion of some be the headliner, which I did end up liking a good deal due to some things I'll talk about later. On to the basics. This game plays pretty much like a level of a classic Sonic game, except you're racing someone to the finish line. There are multiple routes you can choose to take like normal, netting you some useful items to slow your opponent down, such as throwing fire, ice, and electricity. The interesting thing about the items is that the effect changes depending on if you're in first or second place. When you're in second, the item will chase the enemy and either hit them or expire if they're too far away after a certain amount of time. If you're in first, fire acts as a barrier, the electricity leaves a trail that your opponent will have to avoid, and ice will leave a spot that if someone steps on, they will freeze. These effects only last a couple seconds though, so you have to use them a bit more tactically and put them in places that are required to actually go through to maximize the effects. Each character also has a special move they can unleash. Sonic can blast forward, destroying everything in his path. Knuckles stops his momentum and dizzies the opponent, stopping them in their tracks. Shadow does kind of the same thing as Knuckles, except it only slows them down, being one of the worst special moves in the game to me. Silver has the same as Knuckles, just completely stopping the opponent from moving for a second or two. There's no Chaos Emerald to collect or anything, but after every successfully won race, you'll receive a card which there are 150 of various characters throughout the series, with the only thing they really do being costume unlocks for the characters, as well as one character unlocked being Metal Sonic, but he doesn't get a story mode sadly. He's just usable in challenge mode, as well as through the versus multiplayer mode and cup circuit, which is just consecutive races. Challenge mode doesn't even unlock anything either, except maybe getting some cards, and basically in it you have to win the race while having to do certain things throughout the levels. There's 3 difficulties for each challenge as well. I don't believe there is a 100% canon story, as the Sonic and Knuckles stories don't even explain a major plot point that is introduced in Shadow and Silver's story, but each story pretty much follows the same route, down to the zones they go to. The only difference between them is who they meet in particular zones, as well as who goes off to fight Eggman at the end. The base story though is that Eggman is doing some weird and wacky things with the camera that he has, using it to turn certain characters into cards, or even the Master Emerald in Knuckles' case. Each time you eventually catch up to Eggman, he gets angry and attacks you with a robot, eventually sending Metal Sonic to race you, until, at least in Shadow and Silver's story, it's revealed that Eggman isn't actually Eggman, but a descendant from the future named Eggman Nega, whose entire lineage is a joke due to Eggman being thwarted by Sonic so much, so he came to kill Eggman. But I don't think they thought the story through quite enough on this part, because this is pretty much just an elaborate suicide attempt, because if he kills Eggman, he won't be born. You might be saying, maybe that's not how time travel works, but on Silver's side, Silver mentions that if Eggman Nega pulls his plant off, Silver will disappear as he's from the future too. Also, he's not the same Silver from Sonic 06 to make this more confusing. Well, eventually Eggman Nega decides that if he can't pull off his plan, he's just gonna murder everyone by turning the entire planet into a card, with anyone being able to go and fight him, as pretty much everyone he turned into a card gets saved throughout the game. That's pretty much it though. The day is either saved by Sonic, Knuckles, Shadow, or Silver, as they decide to go and find the rest of the cards and free everyone else, but that isn't shown. I think Sonic Rivals does a good job of doing a new spin of the classic formula of the original Sonic games. Pitting the characters against each other in a race doesn't seem too far removed from the series, as they're actually racing on foot instead of cars or floating boards. The AI is actually pretty good as well, leading to mostly close races, as there were many occasions that I would get screwed with an item at the very last second, but I took it in stride as it was mostly just funny. There's only a couple things that I like more of like a reason to collect the cards other than just to collect costumes, and more content in general. I mean, 5 characters, a story mode, a challenge mode, and even some 2-player stuff is nice, but I just feel like it all fell a little short. This isn't to say I had a bad time with the game though. Lastly, the story is pretty wonky with some not even finding out what exactly is going on, so sadly it's a bit of a con too to me. While I think Sonic fans can enjoy this game, there's just a missing feeling to it. I mean, it does a good job in feeling like the classic games, but this game was made in 2006 for context, and for the other games to have pretty bare-bones story, but still make more sense than this one. It just feels a bit off. I did enjoy my time playing through the game though, so I'll leave this more to viewer discretion. Hope you enjoyed, and see you next video.